Hi, my name is Sukeji, and this is the first episode of my podcast, Sukeji Speaks. I was inspired, more like pushed to make this podcast to share my voice, something that I have struggled with for the majority of my life. And you know what they say, that fear is designed to keep you from your purpose. I wanted to share my experience as someone who has dealt with suicide, anxiety, depression, and how I have healed and evolved into a master of self and become the creator of my reality. So, before going into detail, I wanted to lay out the stages of the journey to self, or the journey of self discovery. So, first is stage 0, which is basically like rock bottom or tower moment. Basically, the moment where it all falls down and you are faced with a choice of making change because you cannot continue to live the way that you have anymore. Stage 1 would be deep reflection, flushing, purging, basically rethinking every single belief that you've had about the world. Stage 2 would be in between worlds, so between the world you unconsciously created and the world where you are consciously creating the life you desire to live with intention and focused attention, right? Stage 3 would be in flow, so in flow with the currents of your new reality. And then stage 4 would be flourishing, so reaping what you've sowed and seeing the physical manifestations of your conscious creations. So for me, with these stages, as you know, or as they say, that healing is not linear. And honestly, life is a journey. Life is a cycle. And things come and go. Things die and things are reborn. So with these stages, they're more of like cycles within, or stages of cycles within the whole grand scheme of things, you know. When you are on the path of self-discovery and knowing yourself, it's about learning the things that trigger you, learning the things that may cause you to behave in a way that you yourself don't want to anymore, and being able to pinpoint certain beliefs that are behind those actions, behind those behaviors, behind those patterns, right? Because it all starts with our mind. It all starts with our thoughts. Our thoughts then become our feelings and our words, and then our words become our actions, and then our actions become our patterns and habits. And so if there's something within our lives that cause us to have a certain reaction, it's up to us to get behind that and see the seeds of belief or the seeds of knowings that are under that cause us to have that reaction, right? So for me, if I am faced with something, a person, place, or thing, or stimuli, or situation, experience that I deem as negative, then I can go into reflection of, why did this situation, person, place, or thing, experience make me feel this way, right? And then rethinking the beliefs I have about that said thing. and then going into, okay, what needs to be released and what new ideas I want to integrate. So that's like the in-between worlds of the past, what I used to think, feel, and do with this, and then the new beliefs that I want to embody, enact, and that thus will become me. And then stage 3 would be in flow, right? Just flowing with my life, not wanting to control every single thing, not wanting to unconsciously react to something when I could just take my time and respond. And then if that situation comes again, or in a different form, in a different way, I then can flow through it. I can then be like, okay, this is the new ideas, this is the new feelings, this is the new actions that I want to respond with to this situation. And then I flourish, because then now that person, place, thing, experience, situation is not triggering for me anymore, because I have done the work of knowing, recognizing, deciding to change the ideas, which then change the feelings, the actions, the habits. Then that thing does not attract to me as fast. It doesn't, it's not, I'm not holding it anymore. I'm not heavy with baggage of something that I don't even want, but I just attract it because I'm holding on to the fear, the worry, the doubt, the anxiety of it, And then, as I said, I'm flourishing because maybe I flow through it so good, I literally don't have to face that person, place, or thing, experience, situation anymore, because I've taken away the thing that attracted it to me in the first place, right? And so that was just like a little breakdown of how things how we can unconsciously attract things to us even if we don't want them. That's why this reminds me of this like TikTok that I saw, and it was like, you attract what you fear, and then the girl was like, a boyfriend, because she wanted to attract a boyfriend. But literally that shows that, like, because if you attract what you fear, because you are holding on to fear so much, you're holding on to the ideas of it and how much it scares you, and your reaction to it, that when you are faced with it, you have this emotional outburst. And in having that reaction instead of response is what causes it to further attract to you and further create that vicious cycle of, you always being afraid of it and you never ascending out of that lesson, right? So before I talk more in depth about the stages, I just wanted to touch on who I was before me reaching rock bottom. So I call this stage negative, right? This is pre self-discovery, self-knowing Sukeji, how she was. And my life before making the decision to change, like looking at it now, it was like literally horrible. Like it was actually like hell. And it's just, I feel like now I wouldn't even survive like a day in my mind. Like I was just drowning in thoughts of fear, thoughts of anxiety. I thought of myself as the victim. I people pleased my ass off, excuse my French. I valued others more than myself. I valued my work or achievements more than myself. I silenced myself. I adopted a false vision of what I wanted my future to look like based on what others perceived as success. I was constantly indecisive. I had no sense of direction outside of what was told of me, no drive, no compassion, and honestly, no will or reason to live. I saw myself as a burden to my family and those around me. I was constantly invested with with others' lives more than my own. I lived a double life in a way by trying to project an image of who I was versus what the real me was going through. And in all of this led to me having horrible habits, not taking care of myself, not eating for days, back when I was in college, not going to class, and only showing up socially to keep up an image of who I wanted other people to see me as. And going through all of that, right now, where I'm at now, I look back at it, and honestly, I see it as a blessing. I see it as like a miracle that I went through all of that, just toughness, just like as I did, like literal, like just I feel like it was one of the worst. I just got into the worst experiences of my life, but now all I can be is grateful for it, because through that I learned the largest lesson of my life, which is my mind is the main driver in creating my reality. When I say creating my reality, of course, or other people can also say co-creation of your reality. We are, or in my belief, we are a part of this whole universe, this universe that we exist in. We are merely a fraction of it. And if you think this whole universe had created itself, it's created form, it's created, the stars, it's created the planets, it's created life, and being a fraction of that initial creator, being a fraction of that consciousness, we also have that power to create our reality. Yes, we might not be so, I don't want to say present, but overlooking every single detail, but we do have the power to set intentions. We have the power to set the direction of how our destiny goes based on what we put our attention on, based on what we hold as core beliefs, based on what feelings and what thoughts we are holding within our mind. And I feel like today in the modern age, everyone has forgotten that power that they have. Everyone has forgotten that their attention is their highest currency. I feel like a lot of people nowadays believe that the most not expensive, but the highest currency, the most valuable thing is something outside of us, whether that be money, whether that be, precious metals and materials like gold, diamonds. Like, we are valuing things outside of us that are not even alive, and like it's literally like a rock, or it's literally glass, right? Or it's literally a piece of paper. Like, think about how we treat other things that are made out of cotton and linen, right? We treat them like different. But then when it comes to the one that is green and has a person on it, everybody is in a way worshiping it and valuing themselves more than, or not, or valuing it more than themselves, and I feel like in that way, so many people have lost their power, and so many people have lost hope as to what, their lives are, or what their purpose are, what they have, or why they have incarnated or reincarnated onto this 3D plane to experience. And for me, with this journey of self-discovery, it's been a very spiritual journey in getting back to my true essence and getting back also my connection with the Creator, and it being much more personal outside the lens of religion and what the world has taught me. And, actually knowing and relearning who, the universe or source or God or, whatever you call your higher power is, And so for me to get to this point, I had to go through trials and tribulations for me to learn what the actual truth is, and the power that I have in creating my life. Because all of that, everything that has happened to me has been the result of unconscious creation by, listening and ingesting beliefs from school, from my family, from society itself. And, it's kind of two-sided in terms of who is to quote unquote blame for it. Because, as when you are first born into your family or into society or into this earth, an ideal reality would be that your parents or your community or just the world itself would give you the proper tools and educate you on knowledge and wisdom and things that would actually help you and give you tools to be able to then create the life that you're meant to live for yourself, right? Since we're all on this journey of life ourselves. Yes, we have our family, we have our friends, we have our communities, but at the end of the day, when we die, when we leave, when we transition from this 3D plane, it's going to be alone. No one else is going to transition with you. And so in knowing that, we must know that everybody is on their individual path in terms of things that they are trying to or wanting to experience, the things that their soul and their spirit want them to learn and want them to evolve and ascend to. And so for me, of course, if the state of the world is was not the greatest and is still, I know is not the greatest, and there's been many generations where people have been stripped of their power, stripped of the agency, the authority that they have over themselves through the spreading of ideologies that serve a certain group of people or serve a certain agenda, then being brought up in that, of course, we're going to learn everything that hurts us instead of helps. If we are in a world where the majority of people are not being or are not living their, highest healed timelines because of the major ideologies that are being perpetrated around the world through the constant belief, and then in believing, experiencing, and then in experiencing further anchoring in the belief, right? And so I feel like that's something I had to learn too, is that it's not it happens to you, therefore it is. No. It's you put it in your mind that it is, therefore it happens to you. I thinketh, therefore I am. Not I am, therefore I thinketh. Everything starts from within, from your inner world, from your world, the world of your mind, the world of your emotions, before it is then brought into or manifested within the 3D consciousness or the 3D physical reality. And it's funny because it kind of correlates with like states of matter, right? So our thoughts are parallel to air, right? And then our feelings could be parallel to liquid. For example, water, you have water vapor, then water. And then the 3D can be seen as ice, right? So it all starts first in the non-physical, within the realms of our mind, within our inner realm. And then through constant thought, constant attention, being focused in one area, it makes it heavier. Then you start to have feelings about that, right? Then once those feelings are marinating, they're getting a little heavier because you're now, instead of just thinking about it, now you have feelings, right? And now you're feeling it. Feelings are heavier. Feelings are more, of course, they're states of mind, but think about how fast you can discard a thought. And then think about how much, like if you're having a sad day or you're feeling sad, how much more energy it takes to move or transition out of that. Then through having those emotions, right? Energetic motion, it gets heavier, then crystallizes literally into the 3D, crystallizes within your reality. So then, for example, say in my brain, I'm thinking about, let's see, what can be an example? I'm thinking about, how much I don't want to pick my brother up from school, right? This is just an example. I'm thinking in my head, like, oh my gosh, like, I just don't want to pick my brother up from school. And then in having those thoughts, then I'll have feelings of, just like, I like don't want to do it. Like feelings of, what if you feel? Just like discard, or not even discard, I would say. What's the feelings that, man, I need that feelings chart. You guys know the chart that like names all the feelings. Like I feel like I need that right now. Let's see. I wouldn't say anger. I feel like anger is too strong. Disdain, or just like if I really didn't want to do it, like, oh my gosh, like I don't want to pick him up, right? So then it gets a little heavier. And mind you, this is probably just a thought that has just come into my brain, right? Because also all of our thoughts are not ours. It can just be things that are just flying around, literally in like the web of the realm of thoughts, because you also think about it, like, not all the thoughts you have in your brain can be yours, because it's like it had to originate from somewhere, and it's not all being created from within you. It's all being passed around. You might catch a thought from someone that you're sitting next to, and it's up to you whether you want to affirm and believe it, or you can just let it pass on. So say, like, nothing in my reality was even concerning picking up said brother from school. Then I'm thinking in my brain, oh, I don't want to pick him up. And I'm focusing on it. Then I'm feeling those feelings. Then I bet you, maybe not even, I let it go. Not even 15, 20 minutes later, there'll be a situation where I must pick him up from school. And that's all because I focused on it. I felt emotions. So it's like I'm making the weight of that focus, that attention heavier. And then it then presents me with it. And the universe is like, well, you put so much of your attention on it. Like, I thought you wanted it. I thought you wanted to pick up your brother from school. And then your brain, you're like, when you're faced with it, you're like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I didn't want to do. Why did it show up? And it's because you put your attention to it, And it's so funny when, like, you first figure it out. You're like, oh my gosh, like, in some way I literally created all of that stuff for me. But then you kind of have to accept that and then be like, okay, how can I turn this? How can I make this serve me, And so in that process, that's when you start going through the stages of looking at everything that you've ever ingested, that you've ever, mentally ingested, spiritually ingested, of how the world works and what really is the truth. Because it's like, if you can create anything, live any life, then, like, what even is true? I feel like the only thing that's true is that you have the power to do that. Not that you can live a certain life, or life has to go this way, or you have to take this step, go this path to then achieve this. Like, no, it's literally all, life is a game. It's all up to the person. It's all up to you and how open you keep your mind and how much you believe that you can actually have it, how much that you can actually have it. And so, just back to who I was before this point, through all those beliefs, I then, became that person who was a people pleaser, that person who valued others more than themselves. And that's just through years of just seeing people not live the lives that I felt that they were meant to live, and wanting to alleviate people from their pain. But then in that, I'm losing myself, because it's like, why are you healing others when you yourself are not healed? And that can create, a plethora of problems, especially with people pleasing. People pleasing in me, first it turned from wanting to alleviate people's pain to, oh, now because I've been focusing on other people more than myself, I value other people more. I value other people's opinion and validation of me. And I want to manipulate that image of myself that I project to be someone that is liked. So, and then in this, I'm going to act in this way. I'm going to go above and beyond and make sure that all these people around me like me, right? And then their validation will be the reciprocating, energy, or the end result, right? But in reality, that doesn't work, because on the flip side, for the people that you are, if you are a people pleaser, the people that you are pleasing, they think that that's just you on a regular basis. They just think that that's authentic you, because with human behavior, how people can categorize and have a sense of who you are is through repetition, right? Through repeated behaviors and patterns, so they can be able to see, okay, that's who she is, that's how she acts, that's her limits, right? But if you yourself are going above and beyond, and the other person thinks that that's just you, they're going to obviously take you for granted, because they don't recognize, or you haven't communicated to them that you're doing above and beyond. And then that can lead to resentment and anger towards people, because it's like you've poured so much energy into someone and they are not reciprocating the energy you put in, because you thought that their validation was enough. And so that's something I had to learn, that their validation is not enough, and I need to love myself more. I need to be secure in myself and know that the only validation that I need is my own. I don't need anybody else's validation to make me feel like I belong, or that I'm quote unquote cool or okay, you know? And also valuing other, my achievements outside of me, or in valuing achievements more than valuing myself. It's like that's something that I feel like a lot of people have internalized from the education system, by just seeing how certain groups of people are treated based off of their academic performance. With some people, I'd say it's for me, growing up, like I did fairly well, and I saw how I got treated versus people who didn't do that great according to the academic system and the standards that the state or the country is setting on how someone's development is supposed to go, and seeing how they didn't get treated with the same respect or the same, things as I did. And in that, seeing that, because I saw that, I internalized that, and then created the belief system of, if I work good, if I create things that are good, if I am always getting, good grades, then I'm a good person, then I'm a good student, then I belong. But if I don't, then people are not going to care about me. People are going to neglect me. People are not going to take me seriously, right? And then for me, because in going to university and just not having a good mindset at all about it, I had a really heavy imposter syndrome of how I didn't belong and I didn't deserve to be there, and how like it was just a luck chance, like it was like a fluke that I was like accepted and I got in, blah 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 blah. And so when I started not having those same grades and those same achievements like I used to, that literally like plummeted my self-esteem, because it's like now that belief that I had built up for myself through years, like almost 13 years of being in school, now I'm not on the quote unquote positive side of that, and it just like through the floor. Like I just, it just added so much more just like bleakness, sadness, depression, because I wasn't not necessarily who I thought I was, but now it's like I'm on the negative end of all the beliefs I had about the world. And then that it made me feel like I was nothing. I don't want to say scum of the earth, but like I didn't deserve to exist because I'm not even performing how I used to perform. I'm not doing the things that I used to do, and it was all my fault because I even told myself that going to that certain university was going to be hard. I told myself that it was going to be so hard to get certain grades, to get B's and C's. I told myself it was going to be so hard. I told myself I was going to struggle. I told myself all of these things. Mind you, I started telling myself these things before I even stepped foot into the university, before I even talked to anybody who had went to that university, or people who were going to be in my grade. Like, this is I've learned nothing from it. I've not experienced anything from it, and I'm already building up this mindset that's working against me. And then I experienced that. And then when I experienced that, I'm like, yo, oh my gosh, all these things are true. And it's like, no, it's not true because you experienced it. It's true because you thought it, therefore you experienced it, And so now it's just like so funny because it's like you really just went through all of that for nothing. But it wasn't for nothing because I've gotten to the point where I'm like, yo, like, whoa, like I built that. Imagine what I can build now, knowing that I have that power. Like, now that I have that knowing, now that I know myself, now that I'm secure within myself, now that I have a clear vision, now that I have goals, now that I have a direction, like I'm unstoppable. I'm literally like the only person that can stop me is myself, and I've gotten out of the way. So who can stop me now? And that's why I wanted to share my experience, because I want everyone to get to that point of being unstoppable, knowing that you can literally create the life you desire. You literally can live your dreams, like you can. It's so possible. And you just have to open your mind up and open yourself up to believe it, and also start that process of undoing, right, before you can build and start gaining momentum in the direction you want to go. Because for me, that's what I had to do with going through all those stages. I had to undo. I had to break down. I had to go back to zero and literally see who I was at the core, I'm not under anything. I'm inner and overstanding who I am at my core, at my soul level, at the level of my spirit, before I can then have a direction. Because in me not having direction outside of what people are telling me of, oh, you should be this, you should be a doctor. And this is not even like later, like, a few years ago. This is like early in my life, and I'm just like, oh yeah, like I want to be that because they made it sound so cool, not knowing, girl, that is not for you. You are not built for that life, and it's like we need to know that we coming into this life, this journey, we have things that we are gifts, and we have things that we have to learn, but the life that we are meant to live, we already have some sort of gift at. We already have some sort of advantage at. And it's just up to us to recognize that, to accept that, and to celebrate it so we can then use that. So then we can, be our own bosses. So then we can be the person who is in control of our destiny. And so right now for me, I'm just really at a point of peace, and I'm just at peace with life. I'm at peace with my journey because I've been through so much, and I'm so proud of myself. I'm so proud of myself and how far I've come. And it's like now I'm at a point where I want to start sharing things that I've learned and want other people to start their own journeys so then they can be, the best versions of themselves and then experience the best versions of their lives. I think this is a good stopping point for our first episode. I just want to say thank you for listening and sharing your time, your energy to be in this space of learning, of healing with me. And I hope that you tune in next time. Bye.